is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with the almighty Valensorow. Thanks for being here today, guys. It's great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, anytime, man, anytime. The Bird and the Bear, absolutely kick-ass single. Is this sort of like a good representation of like what the follow-up or like the full-length album is going to be to continuing in a similar vein to the Battle of Oak Mountain and Neptus in a way? Or is this sort of kind of like a one-off single meant to sort of stand out, and is the future work going to be a lot more different?
I think that we can guarantee unpredictability here for from this point on. I think that this single is representative of the unpredictability that you will get from Shorestank. Shorestank sounds nothing like Oak Mountain. The story itself has gotten completely out of hand at this point. And because of that ridiculousness in the writing, like this album, we feel like was completely different, and it's really hard to put a comp on it because we just got as weird as we possibly could. It's a mushroom induced cocaine bad trip, just waiting to happen. And so this song is pretty indicative of that chaos. But I'd say this might be one of our more like, folk metal, style, very upbeat drums and, the speed stuff and just coming in and out of the blast beats and just kind of driving that punk beat all the way home, was what we wanted to do with this one. So our first two singles were sort of indicative of the chaos and then indicative of the fun story elements. And Shorestank, we used a lot of the instruments that we'll use throughout the album, so you kind of get the textures right off the bat. And so I think in that way it's representative, but I can also guarantee you that it will be extremely unpredictable from this point on, and that you will listen to Shorestank and then the next record you will think, I know what this is going to sound like, and you will be wrong.
Yeah, of course. And the funny thing is too is like unpredictability is definitely how I would describe when you listen to Neptus, to the Battle of Oak Mountain, etc., and then you listen to Shorestank. Unpredictability is 100% the ultimate way to describe you guys. But is there ever a time where like you start off the songwriting process with a vision or a preconceived idea in a way, or is the songwriting process just as unpredictable as the making of the song itself?
Well, I could say that, I mean, Joey and I kind of work on the songwriting process together for the most part, but I write everything at the beginning point. The origin point is always me, and I almost 99.9% of the time, I have an idea about a story, and that's an idea either we've talked about drunkenly or, like I just thought of something funny and it made me laugh, and I'm like, I could turn this into a song. And so for me, it's always a story, and then I do the drums, and then I do the orchestra. And at that point, I know what the fuck is going on. I know who's getting attacked, and I know like where the arc is going and like where things need to be. And so writing the bass and drums and the bass and guitars and vocals, excuse me, is a lot easier at that point, because then we can all dive in on there. We have a shell to work with. Everybody can input their ideas, and then it just kind of takes off from there.
Yeah. And then even then, the song's sometimes not even over. I mean, there's one song on the album that the story stuck the same, but we didn't like the original version of the song, so we completely changed it. But we're like, but we want to keep like this aspect of the story, and I want this to happen. So we kept like this one melody, and one of the songs on the album, called Another Big Monster, is completely different than how it started, but it's a way better version of it.
And it almost got cut because we were revisions like weeks before we were going into the studio. Like we were still making revisions, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking cut this motherfucking song. Like, this is stupid. We shouldn't be talking about it still. And I'm so glad we didn't, because it fucking rocks.
Well,
Yeah, it's a good one.
Do you think of these? You kind of already answered it, but you mentioned you think of the stories first and everything. So does that almost guide your hand with regards to how the music was? And obviously, a story determines the lyrics. But let's say hypothetically, you took the vocals out. Sure. Does the instrumentation also tell the story in the same way?
Yeah, I think so, because I'm more of a composer than I am a player. Like I would way rather people compliment the writing of the music than the playing of my drums. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my focus. Like, my focus as an instrumentalist is to perform the story the way it's supposed to be. And so, like, for me, I think about it like a score. And so if I can picture the event, the story in my head, I can kind of hear what's going to happen, like as if I were scoring it, and then I kind of just score it with metal. And So I think the idea always gives me the inspiration for I'll tell you this. I never am like, I have a riff. Now I'm gonna write a song about it. It's always like, wouldn't it be cool if we had a song about a fucking like ice deer or something, like, and that's like always, then I'm like, what would the ice deer sound like? Where would he be living? Would the wind be musical, or would it be dark there? Whatever. And that gives me that starts to get the wheels turning on the sound and the tempo and all that.
Um, but and it's funny you mentioned that too, because like in the end, with the sort of with the story aspect behind it, is it meant to be as sort of like an external metaphor for maybe something in your personal life, or is Valensorow sort of like meant to be sort of distance from who you personally are, and you're not really bringing too much of your own personal experiences into the lyricism?
I would say the first two records were more so just telling a story. I started writing a story called Something Different when I was a little person. I don't know, maybe middle school or something, and just like as an outlet. And so when I went through a bunch of shit in my early adulthood, went to jail and all that shit, and like during that time, I got all like, I need to write something. And when I came out, I wrote those two records, and it was mostly just like an expelling of energy that I already had, and I just needed to get it done. And I was writing the story and coming up with the story pretty quickly because I remembered bits and pieces of it and was trying to make it musical. This one, Shorestank, is a lot more based on like personal things, and even so, I make it, it's a living story that has characters and all that stuff. But for me, it's also, I got a lot of annoyances out. A lot of it got written during the pandemic, and so there was just a lot of, we were all indoors, and I have kids and stuff, and so like a lot of shit was happening, and so I think there's a lot more. The lyrics are more personal to me this time, but that doesn't mean that the story is a personal story necessarily. If you understand.
Mm-hmm. Do
It's
you
very a light metaphor, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a light metaphor. I mean, there are no like drug-induced bears fighting animals in my house currently, although my kids would.
You got a good turkey story, though.
Do fine in that place. Yeah, I do have a good turkey story. We get attacked by turkeys up here, but.
Oh my God, damn! It's Santa Cruz, California, of all places.
It's a Wild West, man.
Yeah,
um, what do you feel like when you tell these stories in your albums and in your music, that you almost feel like you're kind of portraying characters in a way, or still being that it is coming from your own parts? Because I look at the photo shoots of you guys and the promo pics, and it really seems like you guys in a way are portraying different elements outside yourself, which we see in bands like Korpiklani, we see in bands like War King, and every band in that sort of folk metal aspect behind it. So do you feel like you're in a way portraying alter egos outside of your own personal life?
I think in a way we are, but not directly reflecting the music, just in terms of comparing like our costumes and what we do in a live setting versus what is on the album. One thing we wanted to do more of on this album, or at least go a little deeper with, and which we did on the Battle of Oak Mountain, is some kind of silly voice acting stuff. So Connor and I did make a couple of characters named Krogan and Hamhoth, who are kind of like the characters that are wandering around this island, and which is kind of like the main story of the album. It's just two characters that are wandering around this island and encountering different characters and monsters and all the good stuff that happens in these kind of things. So not really directly reflected with our physical appearance, but there is definitely some character elements to it. Yeah.
We try to make it like a celebration of folk metal and sort of like a Ren fair, where we want people to not just come to like be a spectacle, but we like people to dress up too, and like we like so we at the beginning we're kind of trying to like, okay, who's my stage character, and then we were just like, man, we're taking ourselves too seriously here, like let's go out, let's shred, let's get people to dress up, let's put on a little heavy metal Renaissance fair every once in a while and get everybody super hammered and close bars down. And that's what we do. And so like we kind of stripped the focus back a little bit from like who is our character to just like, hey, we're all here together and let's all pretend like we're in the Middle Ages and get shit faced.
Well, because the music is very technically impressive, and I ask every folk metal band this. It's almost kind of like an exclusive question for the genre, and I've asked, I've asked Korpiklani this, and Ein Sephirim and everybody else. But like, because the music is very technically impressive. Like it's very difficult to play. Like I listen to this music, and you know, it's definitely a challenge to learn how to play it. Is there ever a moment of seriousness where you have to put the character aside in a way, and the sense of humor aside in a way, in order to achieve that technical excellence, or is that what is fueling that technical excellence?
I would say the latter. I'd say that's what's fueling the technical. I mean, and you know, it partly it's our group influences. You know, everybody came into this band with totally different influences, none of which involved folk metal. I probably was the closest, but like I even listened to, you know, I listened to Ensiferum early on, but like I mostly listened to mellow death stuff. You know, like I loved like Children of Bodom and Kalma and like, you know, those kind of like dueling guitar keyboard solo bands. And so like we came into this, we didn't really know how to write, how we were going to write this. And so I think it rather inspires us. I don't think we have to put that aside. I think when we're trying to be more serious, which was probably you know, during the Oak Mountain, I think the product suffered a little bit because I think our synergy comes from just that absolute unabashed silliness and like not taking ourselves too seriously, not getting caught up in this. Because obviously we're fucking city kids from the Bay Area. Like we're not out here slaying monsters and deer and stuff like that. And we know that. And so we're not trying to convince everybody of that, you know.
I mean, it's the 2020s.
Not yet. I mean, I do have to slay a turkey every once in a while, but you know, other than that, you know, they don't fight back real hard.
Fair enough. I do also need to mention this, but this year does mark 10 years since the debut of Valensorow with Neptus.
Indeed.
So I kind of wanted to go down memory lane. In terms of the story, you know, this is the debut. Were you, you know, there's always the trial and error aspect of recording your debut. So did you form the band almost kind of like with this storytelling aspect behind it? And how would you say, you know, the songwriting process has changed and evolved over the years since the making of Neptus?
Well, there is a songwriting process now. That with Neptus, I kind of came, you know, we had been playing music together in different bands, which were my band at the time was embarrassing, and I was just trying to meet new people and I hadn't played music in a long time, kind of been in jail and stuff, and so but I had these songs and I had no one to play them with. And at one point, he was frustrated with his band, and so was Noah, who was playing in his band, our bassist now.
Was it Imperium?
And the vocalist was also in his band, Joe.
Was it Imperium?
So I had been going to their shows, watching them, and like quietly scouting them, and like sneering at my own band members who were like not working hard. And then I came to them one day and was like, "I have an album. Would you guys like to start a new band?
It's kind of
really
weird.
It's really weird. We're gonna wear costumes, and you just gotta trust me." And they luckily were like, "Yeah, sure." And we went into the studio pretty immediately. And I must admit, I should have given everyone more time. But we were in the studio, me being like, "No, it's this, like, do, and then him being like, "I never even learned this one." And I'm like, "Play it." And so it was a little bit of like, we needed to get the ideas out. We had agreed on our unification, but there wasn't much of a songwriting process because it existed before we agreed to be an entity. In Oak Mountain, Joey and I started to establish a workflow, and it was still mostly Joey and I kind of riffing back and forth. He was challenging my ideas, and that was the first time that we really were like cutting things apart. And with Shorestank, it was pretty much that the whole time. I always come with the beginning, you know, because I think of the story, or he gives me an idea, you know, let's write a song about a fucking cave goose. And so I go into like cave goose fighting land. I think about what it sounds like. I send it to him. He cuts it up. He sends me riffs. Like that's kind of how it works now. And that's very different from how it was on Neptus. Neptus was very much like, "Hey guys, I need help completing this idea. And I've got the vision and we can just go. Like, let's just do it right now." So this one, you know, Neptus took 2.5 weeks from us becoming a band to completing the album. And most of that time was in the studio, me yelling at people. And luckily, these guys are great musicians, and it was relatively easy. And then Oak Mountain took a bit longer, and this one took 8 years. So, you know, most of that time was we were doing geographicals, but, you know, it still took a lot longer because we were involved in the writing process more so than the first 2 records.
That was a very interesting story of the debut. Joey, can you top that?
Probably not, but yeah, man. I mean, I can just agree with it. Yeah, the songwriting process for the first record, I wasn't around much for for the production of that one. But the second record, Oak Mountain, yeah, it was more like, here's a structure, like it's pretty much ready to go, like, you know, add some things here and there. But then, yeah, Shorestank was extremely collaborative, and it was super fun, and I feel like we definitely like landed on our, like, we know how we work now, you know. It's and I think the next one's going to be good too.
Mm. Was your previous band Imperium?
Sure was,
Oh,
bro.
you did your homework, man.
So listen, there's an even worse one that if you don't know it, I'm not going to tell you it, but there was an even worse one. But yes, that is one of my rather embarrassing old bands that I still love those boys to death, but you know, it's
that EP
very
was,
silly time.
that EP was pretty good, man. It was pretty good. I wouldn't sell yourself short. So
Beneath the Ruins, am I
Yep.
yeah, Beneath the Ruins.
Yep. Yeah, but when it comes to the to writing together, whether it would be the story or the music, does everybody, because whenever I ask a band how the making of an album was, and they all say we all collectively came together and it was all mutual, I never buy a second of that, because you're in a band with 4 to 5 other people, you're writing a dozen or so songs, there's going to be some room for disagreement, which I think is actually good. If everybody agrees on it, it's going to get repetitive. But when it comes to, you know, the creative process, does everybody kind of need to be in the same frame of mind or in the same headspace, or is it maybe people having different feelings and different emotions that could maybe sort of enhance the songwriting process?
I think that we are much better as the sum of our parts than we are individually, and that includes me. And you know, I always come with the structure, and I call myself the writer of Valensorow, but that's very ambiguous, because I only bring the beginning. You know what I mean? I'm the birther, but like everybody else helps me clean that baby. You know what I mean? Like, but everybody else gives it vaccines and cleans all that cheese off that baby. And that without that, we just got a cheesy sick baby. And I've made a lot of cheesy sick babies before, and I think that this is just one of those things where, you know, we've always operated as a foursome. Even when we have more people in the band, our core is 4, and so it's got to be a pretty unanimous vote almost all the time. Like, I don't know that we've ever gone through with anything where somebody really, really disagreed at the final vote. You know, we always spend a lot of time, like, presenting our arguments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're trying to get people to agree with us, because we don't like to move forward on things where people are feeling like they didn't get to give their input, or feeling like everyone's going against them, because it just doesn't make good energy. And this whole thing is about transferring energy, you know what I mean, and causing vibrations. And so if we got all that nasty shit inside you, you're just gonna make bad music.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that with the writing process of Shorestank we kind of landed on, you know, how to communicate with each other, and how to, like, you know, just kind of the spirit of collaboration. You know, writing something, you can be proud of it, but then, like, be willing to tweak it and adjust it. And, you know, if someone says, well, I don't like this, I have this alternative idea, the ability to kind of like step back and be like, okay. And there was a lot of kind of like ping-ponging around ideas, and it was 100% of the time we ended up with a song that was in a better form than it started. So
100%.
there was definitely a lot of that, and some disagreement, mostly between me and Connor. But
we
we
are the fighters, and it's mostly me. I'll admit that. I get just real zesty about things, and I'm a bad communicator. So
yeah, but it always ends up in a better place, you know.
Fair enough.
And it always comes out of respect, so it's good.
How do
I
you
communicate like a drummer. I start just going like, it's like boom, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom, bap. You know, like, and the equivalent of fighting is just like that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. This I feel like you guys are going to be a folk metal soap opera in a way. Like,
Oh God, I'd love.
Don't tempt us, dude.
Don't give me ideas.
I'm not tempting you. I'm telling you, you need to make that happen. A folk metal soap opera. I don't think it's been done. You know how like bands make like not just, you know, their live albums or their live DVDs or their music videos, but they almost kind of have like they kind of have like, you know, movies that go along, like the Beatles did that with Hard Day's Night and Help and stuff. You guys need
I want a Broadway musical. I have a bunch of theater people in my family, and I've been talking about like wanting to try to write Valensorow the musical, and just have it be the most unabashedly gory and inappropriate thing to hit Broadway.
Yeah,
Get it on Broadway, make old people throw up. It'll go viral because it's so shocking and terrible, and it'll be short-lived and it'll disappear, but I'll have it forever.
I mean, jokes aside, I don't understand why people haven't attempted that yet. Like okay, to be
There's
serious,
no like heavy metal musical.
Yeah.
There's none.
To be serious for 1 minute, like, you know, you could easily make a Broadway musical using Camelot songs and Nightwish songs and
Oh, hell
Cornucopia
yeah.
songs.
The
Like,
Varangian Way by Teresos basically is a musical.
Yeah.
If they just like rode a Viking ship on the stage and like had costume changes, it would be a fucking musical.
I can't see them maybe doing it so much with melodic death metal. Only, you know, I went to theater camp,
No.
so because like the
You'd
movement,
have to find a middle ground.
well, the movement combined with the vocal technique, I don't know if that's remotely possible, because, you know, you see the melodic death metal musicians, they usually walk and then they pause and then say their lines.
Yes.
So like, so I don't know if that's
You'd have to
possible.
get some very uniquely gifted people.
Yeah, this needs
So
to
what
happen.
so what I'm hearing is that you're going to be our theater guy and help us
Yes.
write this thing. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but but if you think Connor is the testy one with the artistic vision, oh, wait till you see me in that theater. You ever see,
Yes.
you ever see the movie
This,
Whiplash?
I like this.
You ever see the movie
My
Whiplash?
people.
Yeah.
Oh yes, my man. Yeah.
Not my BPMs.
Are you rushing
Yeah.
or are you dragging?
Yeah. What kind of riffs is that? But
Oh, my tempo. That's my favorite. No, my tempo.
Exactly. I have 2 more questions for you guys. But when it comes to playing live, you know, you do have to make a set list together. So you'll throw in a Battle of Oak Mountain song with a Shorestank song, and then maybe do a couple deep cuts from Neptus. So when you kind of go all along your catalog, and, you know, you're bringing in, you know, you're kind of shuffling the story with your set list, does that maybe bring another layer of meaning to the story in a way? And even when people are making their own interpretations behind it as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I like to pull out weird ones. You know, we're all kind of like this. Like we always play Indral Forest because people they love that lick. And we always, you know, there's a couple that we like always play. But even, I mean, it's 1 or 2 really. Like we pick 1 or 2 slots in the set where those are going to be always play songs. And then we like to try to find songs that may have gotten glossed over. And really we try not to overthink it too much. And we know it's mostly about what we like and that people don't really tell the difference. You know, we care a lot more about our set lists than we guarantee anybody is going to care about when they come to see us. But but we're over there, you know, we like to try to bring out parts of the story that got glossed over. Really, for me, when we're building the set, it's a lot more about the arc of the energy, you know, as far as like tempo and upbeat and like which songs people are singing on and like where we want people to be yelling the most is like at the end of the set. And so we'll take our gang vocal songs and put them at the end and, you know, do big intro songs at the beginning so we can use the intro for time and stuff like that. So I think it's more about musical flow. And, you know, I've done a lot of like theater production stuff too as a stage manager. And so like I like that aspect of like, you know, where's the flow and where's the arc and like where's the intermission and all that. So I just kind of like think like that, and so it's easier for me to set things up that way.
Yeah, and I think another element in that's kind of a variable in this is just like the other bands we're playing with, and I think our music is one thing I like about it is that we can kind of have like a silly folky crazy set, and then we have enough songs that we can do like, okay, we're playing with a bunch of death metal bands, and for a bunch of like death metal fans, maybe we can whip out some of the heavier ones and go down that route. So it's a kind of like we can kind of balance those 2 elements in our set list, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, because I mean, people like, and I could somewhat maybe understand. You know, I never like to, you know, listen to what, you know, people like look at folk metal and they think it is like, you know, kind of goofy or, you know, hokey in a way where like, you know, it's not very serious. But I mean, some of the, but I mean, you listen to some of the ballads and the anthems that folk metal music, like Aether Realm put out Guardian, and that was just like an incredible triumphant one. This folk rock band called Nemesis, they put out a song, I forgot what exactly it's called, but it almost sounds like it could be like something Sarah McLachlan wrote. Like it has that emotional element behind it too. So like I think when the sort of folk metal element does get very emotional and it does hit, the sort of like dark aspect behind it, you could really like, it's almost like you didn't take us too seriously. Well, look at us now. That's their almost.
Oh yeah.
When the folk metal musicians bring out the ballads, that's when they become hardcore kids.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. Yep.
We see a lot of hardcore kid transformations out here.
Yeah.
Out here in the Bay Area.
I could imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
with you're in the Bay Area, the history of thrash and plenty of hardcore as well. So
100%.
yep.
Yeah.
And shout out to Wolf King, good friends of ours as well. But
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
Wolf King's heavy as fuck, bro.
Yeah.
The other Connor drummer.
I know, yeah.
Connor White.
Hey, look, like the Spider-Man meme.
I was just thinking that. You took the words out of my mouth.
For a while, we had similar length hair too. There was like a very short period where we could have done it, and we missed the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think the next album needs to address the multiverse. So.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, certainly.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll bring back old Connor from Neptus and Joey when he was the mandolin player.
Beating some poor kid over the head with a wireless fucking thing.
Yep. And then conclude it all with an Imperium reunion.
Oh, God.
There it is.
Yeah, they would be so down too if I called them and say, "Hey guys, it's time."
Let's do it.
Fuck yeah.
We're on to something, man. We're thinking of all different cinematic ideas.
I know, right?
Yep.
Valensorow X Imperium
Yep. Oh man.
in the multiverse. Great movie.
A plus already. I can't wait.
Multiverse
to
of Sadness.
Full frontal nudity though, so rated R.
Oh my god, I can't wait. I can't wait for Freeman to do publicity for that one. And the final question I wanted to ask is, I'd like to hear both of your perspectives on this. How do you know when you're finished with a song?
Ooh.
When I come.
That's the short answer.
It's the orgasm, It's I didn't say.
Don't lie.
Yeah,
Connor is never done with a
dripping
song.
out of my ears. Yeah, no, really. Honestly,
When it's recorded and it's impractical to go back and change
exactly
stuff.
it. I get impatient. I get to a point where I'm like, I'm now impatient, but I'm also a psychotic perfectionist. So one of these things has got to give right now. And usually what happens is we just go force it into recording. And then it's recorded and there's very little I can do after that. And then the next time I just write it better. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. And like, I don't think that'll ever change. Like even on Shorestank, I'm really proud of Shorestank. It's some of my best writing, some of my coolest ideas for heavy music have come out here. And yet I'm like, the next one is going to shit so hard on this fucking stupid CD. And that's how I always have been. As soon as Oak Mountain came out, I was like, this fucking thing. Like, you just wait. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever done with the song. But in this case, it's when we record it.
I think I'm done asking the question of how they know when a song is done. That's been my usual question, and after that answer, I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to top that.
Listen, they may have been telling you other things, but that's the real answer.
Yep, exactly.
When you need to change your underwear after you hear it, then
Yeah, when you
that's
got to
how
wear
you
a
know.
diaper on your ears.
So before we go, I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation. I thought this was informative and fun and everything you could want from an interview. I definitely can't wait to do a part 2 with you guys. Is there just anything else with Valensorow that you'd like to do for the usual plug with the release of Shorestank in terms of shows, or what else we could be expecting?
Well, we got some shows coming up, and really we're building a content monster right now. An 8-legged content monster that's going to take over the internet. And that's kind of like our main mission right now. So when the release comes out, just expect us to begin existing just in the web space, kind of for the first time ever. And if you're in the Bay Area, Cinco de Mayo, come on out to Toots Tavern.
Toots fucking Tavern, man.
Cyborg Octopus, baby.
Oh, no way. I interviewed them as well. They're awesome.
Oh, man.
We love those guys. We go way back.
So legit. Yeah, I love those guys. Them and Raiju, some of my favorite people out here. Shout out to Raiju, Bay Area band too. You should check them out.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Everybody, we are here with Valensorow. Be sure to check out Shorestank when it comes out. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.